All right, guys, this is a live video. Let me just arrange myself here properly. This is a first attempt at, just get this microphone in the right place. Okay, that in the right place. Yeah, guys, this is the first attempt at this. And, you know, I just decided to actually put video up because the last time I did this jaunt, I actually did this without the aid of a video feed. But it's not that, you know, you might as well see my face. You know, what's the point of my, might as well see my face, isn't it? Yeah, no. So, you know, the last video that I posted was actually about the situation with Solo. And, you know, I was spurred to make that video because guys were wondering, like, what was going on. Like, you know, it was actually a very strange scenario where it was projected that the film wasn't going to do that well. And, you know, there were questions being asked about why that was the case. And it was, you know, there was conjecture, there was disagreements, there was a friction as to the definitive reason why these things were happening. You know, so we knocked heads together. You know, I actually had a co-host on at the time, Chosen One, who is not here now, in fact, let me actually see and make sure that this is actually broadcasting live on the page. Give me 1 second, chaps. We're going to go into a lot of things here, you know, because it's now in. We now know what the numbers are, you know. So now there is no more questions being asked about, you know, what happened or what didn't happen. Give me 1 second. I'm just checking up some things here. Give me a second. All right, so it is actually working. That's fantastic. Let me just have a quick look at something. Okay. All right. Give me a second here, guys. Just give me a second here. There's a lot going on. A lot going on. I'm trying to get my video. Yeah, sorry, this is the first time I'm actually using this feature. And there is a hell of a lot going on. Okay, I see it. All right. So basically, yeah. So, you know, there were these questions and we got in depth as in, you know, we're anticipating what was going to be happening. We're anticipating now that it's actually happened. So we looked at the digits and, you know, they're talking about like 103 for the whole weekend. Obviously, studios do, and you know, so on and so forth. So we talk about these things because this is what dictates what you see in the cinema. What you see in your multiplexes is dictated by the cash money that gets made. You know. So that being said, I feel like it's inevitable that we're going to have these conversations. So let's talk about it. I mean, it's one of those, right, where, like I said before previously, I'm not that surprised by what's happened, but I'm surprised at the scale of it. Like, I'm not surprised that it wasn't going to do as well, because I think it was kind of underestimated the impact that the Last Jedi situation was going to have. And I think the thing that baffled me the most was the whole Rian Johnson thing and the fact that he kept sort of responding to fans and so on. I was like, man, I mean, the things that you're saying, this is actually, even people that were sort of semi on the fence are probably going to be they're going to actually get more upset by the kinds of things that are flying out of your mouth, or that rather that are getting typed. They're going to actually be more upset by it. So I was actually kind of surprised at the kinds of things that were being said. And I think that we've seen the dividends that paid them, because I'm like looking at these numbers and I'm like, my God, this is okay. Horrid films. Hello, psychology. Good to have you in the room. Um, everybody who knows that I'm a Star Wars guy, and a lot of guys I know are Star Wars guys, and I don't know anybody who's seen it, which is madness. Like, it's madness that there's a Star Wars movie out that I haven't watched, but it has happened. I mean, it's happened with Rogue One. Like I said, I talked about that before, but this is the first one that I'm like, it's got nothing to do with, like, see, some people are talking about like actively boycotting. I'm not. I was going to boycott like Last Jedi because of how I felt. I was going to do that because of Force Awakens, because I hated Force Awakens, right? This movie, and I didn't boycott Last Jedi because I got forced into it for other reasons. You know, that I've already discussed those points. But this particular picture, it's that simple. Like, I just really didn't want to watch the movie. Let me just see if I can get some more lights on my face here. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm trying to get some more light here on the side. See if this works. All right. Yeah, so I really couldn't care less. I mean, it wasn't something that made me want to go out and watch the movie. Like I've said a million times, we know how this story ends with Han Solo, and it ends with the guy getting thrown off a bridge like trash. So it's like, who cares what happened before now when I know that this is where the guy ends up? You see what I'm saying? So it's like, there's no reason for me to want to see the backstory of a character that has been disparaged in the movies I just watched. Because I just watched the sequel stuff, 2 of the sequels. He's only in the first one, and the guy was treated like trash. So who cares? You know? So that's my feeling. I was done after I saw The Force Awakens. That was a disturbing and depressing experience. Agreed. 100% agreed. I was listen, I was traumatized after. No, you know what? I was traumatized twice. Force Awakens definitely did that to me because I was just surprised. I don't know whether I think that's the weird thing about it, because was I looking forward to that movie? I don't know. I don't know if I was. I think what it was that I was surprised at the direction it took, because I don't think I was looking forward to it in the same way that nowhere near the same way that I was looking forward to Phantom Menace. Like, Phantom Menace was on a whole other level. You know, I mean, like I said, I was one of those guys who lined up for months and months before the movie came out. I had to keep keeping my place with guys who were there, going home, you sleep, you come back, you take it. Like, I was one of those guys. That things are on the news. You remember when it was on the news in '99 and they had those lines and people like keeping each other's places, going home, showering, come back. I was one of those guys. That's what I was doing. I was doing it in Atlanta, a place called Lenox Mall. I used to go there every day and line up for this movie till I got my. And listen, the line I was lining up for wasn't even for the film; it was to get the tickets. So we're lining up to get the tickets for Phantom Menace. And when I finally got to the window, I bought like 3 or 4 tickets for myself. Because before I'd even seen it, I bought a number of tickets for me to see it on consecutive days. Suffice to say that for me to talk about what happened when I finally watched the movie is a whole other conversation. But the point in case, which is why I'm bringing this up, is that I'm one of those guys, you know, one of those sort of fans of Star Wars. So for me to get to the point where it just didn't really matter anymore. So Force Awakens was sort of like, it was a sequel. So I was sort of excited in a way because I was going to get these new characters. But I will be honest with this, like, I saw the trailer, you know, the one with the stormtrooper when Boyega jumps up and, like, you know, is sweating, and that did get me excited because I was like, it's the first time that I'd seen new stuff, because the prequels contained a bunch of things that we already knew about. So we knew how things were going to go, what was going to happen. We knew about it. This was the first time I was seeing now going into Last Jedi and going into Solo. Last Jedi I wasn't going to watch. I got forced into it, and that thing was what it was. We talked about that for hours, so you've got hours of footage on here about that. However, Solo, I didn't care. It wasn't a boycott. I just didn't care. Like, I was like, oh, okay, cheers. That was my feeling for that picture. So now that all of this stuff has happened, it's like there are people who actively boycotted, and that's fine, who are like, I'm not going to go to send a message. That's a very different psychology from where I was at. And there are a lot of people who are in my boat where it was like, I'm not boycotting the movie. I just don't care. It's like, it's gotten to the point that the way that the sequels have been handled, as a fan, I no longer care about these stories. It's like, I don't care. But this is the messed up thing, okay? This is the messed up thing, and I'm going to, let me just start talking about this opinion piece now. The messed up thing about it for me is this. The Last Jedi, for example, spent a lot of time talking about destroy the past, right? Let's get rid of the past, burn it if you have to, whatever the hell Kylo Ren was talking about. And that was sort of analogous to this whole idea that we have to do away with the old fans, the old mentality, the old characters, all of these sorts of things. And it's time for the new school, the new things or whatever. And I'm like, guys, do you understand what Star Wars is? Star Wars is for the old people. Like, they're the guys who've kept it alive so that you even have anything to take forward. So the only way that you're going to even possibly bridge the gap of taking it from the old foundation to the new foundation is with the old guys. How the hell are you supposed to teach the young kids why Star Wars is so amazing? Like, do you know the only way you could do it is if your films were flipping masterpieces that on their own feet, they'd be incredible. But the problem is that they couldn't be because you're actually using the old characters and you're sort of relying on the nostalgia to propel your film. So if you're relying, it's like a double-edged sword. You're relying on nostalgia, but you're telling the nostalgic people that they're not important. The new kids don't even know what the nostalgia is because they were never really with Star Wars back in the day. So it's confusing. It's like, what exactly is going on? The whole reason why Force Awakens was so successful is because it relied on the nostalgia of the old school fans, like myself, who was like a young kid in the early 80s watching A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. See horrid films. It was a con job, tricking people into seeing it, hiding everything it was about. I was excited for a bit until it came closer and more was revealed about it, and my fear it was going to be a rehash. That's agreed. That's agreed. I mean, I think, look, like I said, everybody said that. Like, for example, John Boyega's character in that movie, I thought the guy was a Jedi. I mean, I really did, because they gave him a lightsaber on the poster. To that point in history of Star Wars, no one holds a poster on the lights nobody holds a lightsaber on the poster if you're not a Jedi or aspiring to be or have like the Force, or you know what I'm saying? So that tricked me completely, because this guy was and is far from a Jedi. He's far from even being a stormtrooper. He's far from being like anything. So at least you were tricked across the board, like across the board for a lot of things. But I think the problem now is that you now have is, and this is the scariest factor, the damage of Last Jedi was huge. But I think the 1-2 punch of that and this is a big deal, because how are you going to get everyone back? Because they've got like Marvel and like Infinity War 2, Black Panther 2, bloody like whatever else Marvel is coming out with and all these sorts of things. Venom's coming out. Like, there's so many other options that I don't know what you're going to do to bring people back, because you've already really, really annoyed the old fans. The new fans don't care because they have other things. Even Matrix, if Matrix decides to come back and do like sequels or like a reboot or whatever, which I think would be ridiculously stupid, but let's say they came back with that, the new generation of millennials and beyond, that's their thing, not Star Wars. So That's what I'm like. I'm looking, I'm like, man, you know, how do you get people back? I really, I don't know how you get people back. So Obi-Wan movie, maybe? Maybe? I mean, let me see what's going on in here, this room. Um, all right. All right, all right, all right. Yeah, man. So the Obi-Wan movie, maybe. Because let me be real, I'll be honest with you, they might get me with that because it's Ewan McGregor coming back. They might kind of get me with that. So, which would be very tricky, but I can't lie. You know, I mean, you might catch me in a cinema somewhere watching that particular film. Boba Fett, nah, nah. I mean, because listen, the thing about Boba Fett, right, is this, right? And this was already done pre the whole Disney thing and everything, is that he ends up in a Sarlacc pit like a joke. He falls in by mistake because Han Solo can't see, and then he says, hey, Boba Fett, and then he turns around and he hits him, and then he flies into the thing. That was very, very silly, okay? And if the guy, that's the way he goes out, I mean, you know, it's one of those. So do I really want to see his backstory? But let me say this, though. If the sequels and everything were going in a different direction and the spin-offs had a different flavor to them, it is possible that if there was a lot of goodwill going on, I would have cared. This is Grim Fandango. Yes. Hello. How are you doing? Is this your first talkback? Is this your first foray into these realms? Sorry, you know, there's a lot of guys who come in here, so I might forgive me if I have forgotten when we last parlayed, you know, in one of these rooms. Yes, I do remember now. I do remember. Anyway, getting back to what I was saying, like Grim Fandango, like I said in the previous one, I said I was going to be coming back to do a post-mortem when you know, when the numbers were finally in, and the numbers are finally in. And, you know, now we're actually talking about, you know, what's, you know, the reasoning and what's actually gone down. And I'm just basically trying to say that I really feel like, as we agreed, because we took a vote and I said that, listen, this was the result of a great deal of a confluence of things, you know, like it was a combination of, boycotting and fatigue. Now, when I'm looking at it, I mean, I still agree that that's the reason, but I think that that boycott had a big effect, man, because I'm looking at the reaction online and like I'm going on the boards and everything, and guys are like, listen, nobody watched it. Like, it's crazy. Like, I actually cannot believe the number of Star Wars boards that I go to, the quantity of them, the number of them that didn't go and watch the movie. I'm shocked because typically, like I said before, what would happen is even if there's like a contentious thing like Last Jedi or Force Awakens or whatever, everybody sees it. That's how Star Wars guys are. Like everybody goes and watches the movie, and then you come back and you whine and you complain about what you thought. Standard issue. I didn't do Rogue One, like I said, you know, and that was more a boycott for me because I kind of boycotted Rogue One because I was so annoyed with Force Awakens. So that definitely was the kind of thing that people did for Solo. I did that with Rogue One. Last Jedi I wasn't going to go and see, but I told you why I saw that. But I really feel that, see what's happening here. Found The Last Jedi boring. Everyone found The Last Jedi. Even my mom said, wow, the magic has gone 15 minutes into it. Horrid films fatigue is as in tired Star Wars movies or tired about Star Wars movies. Tired of Star Wars movies. I think that the fatigue is that there are too many, too quick, which I do agree with. Listen, even if you brought a movie out every year, like they did with Lord of the Rings, right? Lord of the Rings bringing that everywhere, that was okay because they were direct. That we'd never seen Lord of the Rings on screen before. These were the first three. And the way that they were made, remember that Lord of the Rings was made as one big movie, and they broke it up into 3 things. That was the way it was done. So it was like always intended to be 3 and back to back to back, boom. The thing about this is that it feels like they're just coming up with this stuff. So like they finish one movie and they're like, okay, what are we going to do next? Okay, let's go and do this one. And they just come up with the stuff. So obviously there's no real connective thread to it. Like everybody said when they said that they watched the Rian Johnson thing, Last Jedi, it felt like it had absolutely nothing to do with Force Awakens. It was like he just took J.J. Abrams' thing and like Luke threw his lightsaber over his shoulder, just threw that thing out. So I was like, okay, you know what? Forget that. I'm going to go and do my thing. And then he just went and did his own thing. So you almost wonder like, okay, look, episode 9 is going to come out. Like, are they going to just retcon everything that happened in 8 and just do his own thing? That's the issue at hand. That's what's going on. See what's the question here? Darth Cheek says poor quality doesn't help either. That is correct. You know, I mean, but you see, quality of anything is subjective. You know, it's a subjective thing. So, you know, what somebody might say is not good, somebody else might say it's probably the most amazing masterpiece they've ever seen in their life. So that's just one of those. So I tend to stay away from that because I know what my opinion is about particular things, but there are other people who might think that other things are different. All right, guys, you know what? I don't think have I ever done my Darth Vader for you guys? I don't think anybody has ever heard my Darth Vader voice, have they? I'm going to do my Darth Vader here. Okay, guys, are you ready? See if I get in the mic.
Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. Join me. Together we can rule the galaxy as father and son. Your powers are weak, old man. You should have never come back. Impressive. Most impressive.
Thoughts, guys, thoughts. Look, man, it's not bad, you know. I can't even remember the line. How does the line go? Oh, yeah. Wait.
Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. I am your father. Search yourself, you wit to be true. Join me. Together we can rule the galaxy as father and son. You do not know the power of the dark side.
Yeah, it's not bad. Oh, wait. This is Yoda. Check out this Yoda.
How feel you? Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to fear. Fear leads to suffering. I sense much fear in you.
You know what I always said, right? That Bane is actually quite close to Darth Vader. So you heard the Darth Vader, right? Bane is basically the same thing. This is Bane, like,
you fight like a young man with nothing held back. Admirable, but mistaken. Ah, you think darkness is your ally, but you never...
what is it? Oh, yeah.
Ah, you think darkness is your ally, but I was born in the dark. I was born in it, molded by it. I never seen the light till I was a young man. Blah, blah.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Like, it's basically like Darth Vader's little cousin. It sounds like Darth Vader's little cousin. If I could just remember the lines. I can't remember the lines. If I did it. How does it go? Like, it's the bits when Christian Bale comes in. Oh, yeah, when it comes into the thing, right? And he's like in the thing. As in,
let's not stand on ceremony here, Mr. Wayne.
It's basically Sean Connery. It is. Listen, guys, this just shows how much time I've got on my hands. Like, I wasted doing voices. I actually waste my time doing things like this. It goes to show, okay? I'm trying to even think, oh, what's also Joker's lines? I actually have some Joker here. I can't remember. I just, you know what the problem is? Because I haven't done them in like a couple of months, right? Actually 6 months. Like, I can't actually remember the actual dialogue. If I could remember the dialogue, I could probably do them better. But I can't remember the dialogue. Anyway, that being said, that was a complete diversion of what we're supposed to be talking about. But I remember the dialogue for next time, so I'm going to do the proper lines, okay? Yeah, so the reality is that you just don't have anything to be surprised about. Like, this was always going to happen, you know? I think it's pretty crazy, the levels of it. Like, I actually did not think it was going to be this severe. Like, let's be honest, okay? It's severe. Like, it's a very severe thing, you know? And I really don't know where it was. First things first, like, they were talking about, like, this is the beginning of a new series of like, that's out the window. Like, there is absolutely no point in now going forward and making any sequels, prequels, or spin-off sequels to the Han Solo thing. Like, that's out, because it's actually economically not feasible anymore. It's just economically unfeasible. It's like pointless. It's pointless, actually. You know, actually going forward and trying to make some more of these movies. It's pointless. Personally, I feel that they should just bugger off, really. Yeah, I just think it's pointless. Like, there's actually no point, because financially and economically and strategically and philosophically and psychologically makes no sense to put in 300 million or whatever into something if you're only making 100. You know what I mean? And I think the problem is that these things cost so much money that you can't actually make them for less than that. So it's always going to cost a ridiculous amount of money. So I really have no idea what happens now with the threats, because this is the problem, right? They're all interlinked. So you've got a linking between Han Solo and Boba Fett and Darth Maul and all these things and all these spin-offs that you wanted to do. Han Solo is obviously a very important linchpin, because, to be honest, like, if you go and do a spin-off Boba Fett movie and your Han Solo movie isn't working, it's very, very difficult to see how a Boba Fett movie is going to do. Who the hell would care? Like, if Boba Fett's, like, he's connected to Han Solo, right? And he's, in a weird kind of way, Boba Fett's relevance in the Star Wars universe is based on Han Solo, because he was sent to get him. See what I'm saying? Like, he owed Jabba the Hutt money, you know, and they sent Boba Fett to go and hunt all the. He was supposed to hunt a bunch of people, but the whole point is that he got paid by giving this guy in carbon. I took it back to Jabba the Hutt, blah, 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 blah. So he's sort of connected to this guy. Yeah, so I mean, so that's my confusion. Is like, because Horrid Films is saying that so many movies have been announced that I don't believe will be made. I personally don't understand. And by the way, guys, whoever's listening to this, like, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Like, if you want to hear whenever the hell I'm going to get on here, because it is very sporadic. But if you're subscribed, then you're going to know when I'm going to show my ugly face on cam, okay, and talk a whole bunch of nonsense for like 30 to 40 minutes, and then sign off. So, you know, if you want to be privy to that, then you might as well subscribe to the channel. Because who knows, like, on some occasions, I actually might say some pretty interesting things, you know, so you might as well. And also I might have some guests here who might say more interesting things than I'm able to say, so you might as well get involved. Yeah, so I just feel like, who can? I think that's the thing. It's like, it doesn't really matter, because I think it was so, like, there was such a lack of excitement about it, that I think now that it's happened, it's, you know, and I feel bad. I'm like, oh, you know, the energy that I had, and you can actually sense it in how I'm talking about this versus how I talked about Jedi and especially Force Awakens. Like, that hit me, you know, in a way, because like I said, I was not anticipating it, but then I saw the trailer and I'm like, oh man, I didn't even realize that I was going to be that excited about seeing this thing. And I went in and saw it. That's the whole thing. But this one, like, you know, listen, Deadpool 2 smashed it. Deadpool 2. Deadpool. Guys, Deadpool. Deadpool. I mean, what are we talking about? Deadpool. So when you have a situation like that, a scenario like that, you know, says a lot. So it just shows that, look, the generation that we're dealing with now, they don't care about this. The only way you would have ever bridged the gap is if you catered to and respected the old school guys, because we would have brought the new guys. It's the way it works. When I was a kid, 14, 15 years old, when I saw what 30-year-old guys, grown guys, 35, 40-year-old guys were getting excited about, it made me pay some attention. When I saw what late 20s guys were excited about, it made me pay attention. It's just natural. Like, I'm not saying that it's going to necessarily translate to those guys becoming fans, but it would actually galvanize and give you a stronger possibility of getting those guys involved. It's just what I think, you know. See, horror film saying you have to acknowledge the identity politics and SJW politics being shoved in Star Wars and have turned a lot of people off. You see, that's the funny thing about this whole SJW thing. I always get wary about using that term because, as you can see, I'm of a dark complexion and I've seen a lot of very crazy things in my day. And, you know, people like myself who might belong to whatever demographics, you know, you might look at, whether it's women, gays, you know, Muslims, whatever, have seen a lot of crazy things, okay? So I'm always wary about just like dismissing SJW because for a lot of guys, a lot of these things are very real, like real things go down. That being said, some of the stuff that has been put in Star Wars, man, listen, we've talked about it. So I don't even need to put in this video. We have analyzed some of those things. Like, it's to the point that you're like, this is Star Wars. It's Star Wars. Like, it's not politics. We're just here to enjoy ourselves. Like, because I understand that, listen, for sure, you know, have like an Asian, black and everything, Jedi. But the problem about it for me, this is the thing that always hit me. You don't have a black Jedi who's doing anything serious in the movie. You don't. So don't pretend like you do, because you don't. Finn is not a big time guy. He's not. Lando was a bigger time guy than Finn. And Lando was no big time guy in Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi, but he was a bigger time guy in those movies than Finn. So that annoys me, you know, because let's be real. Finn and that, like, if you want to talk, okay, like, that's one side. If you want to be real, the only demo that you can say, yes, they went above and beyond and did backflips for is the female thing. But even with the female thing, it's not like all the females in the movie. It's just Daisy Ridley, Holdo. Look at what they did with Rose. Like, Rose is like, it just doesn't, it's, the point I'm trying to make here is that it's confusing because it's like, okay, what, are we doing this for everybody or is it just for particular areas? Or, because it's not like across the board, like every character is given this, it's just specific guys with specific types that have all the play. And then the rest seem to be like ticking off on a checklist. Okay, we did that. We did the gay thing. We did the black thing. We did the Asian. We did the thing. We did chick. Okay, we did all of those. We put all those. And then, but it doesn't make any sense. So then you end up with a movie and watching it, you're like, this one doesn't even make any sense. Because like, why is this person here? Why are they doing this? Why? And you're the basic thing that I said, right? This is it. If you had Finn in this movie, and this is the reason why I said that, this just sums it up for me. Finn is black, okay? Daisy Ridley is a woman and she's white, okay? And you have these two characters in the movie. Now, typically, I've been watching these sorts of films since I existed, since I had a brain in my head. I've been watching these sorts of films, fantasy, action, whatever. The main young lead male and the main young lead female get together. They have a romantic relationship. It's the way it works. And even in real life, if two guys, man and woman, unless they're not straight, like, you know, if they get together in a situation where they're saving each other's lives and they're going on this adventure, something is going to happen between them inevitably. Okay. And plus that's like in real life, but I'm like, in a fantasy, it's like, what's the point? That's why you did it. Otherwise, what's the point of putting them together? You could just put two guys or like a robot and a woman or whatever. Like, so when I watch this movie and I'm like, we're 2 films in and like Finn has been kissed on the forehead and on the cheek or wherever they're, or hugged and kissed on the forehead. I'm like, guys, you guys are obviously avoiding going in the direction that this is supposed to go in. Because you had your first thing, and then in the second movie, you bring Rose in out of left field to be like a pseudo love interest. And Rose has, listen, do you know what the crazy thing is? Finn has risked his life for Rey multiple times, to a coma for this woman, has not kissed this woman on the lips. She has not kissed him on the lips one time. Rose, by force, has kissed this guy on the lips, by force. Whether he liked it or not, it was happening. So I was like, guys, I'm watching this and I'm like, either somebody is trying really hard not to let this thing happen. In fact, that's the only reason why, because somebody's trying really hard not to let this, because it's ridiculous. So when people bring out this whole SJW thing, I always say that, look, I don't like using the term, but I think the idea and the concept of what is frustrating people, and this is my personal opinion of why it's frustrating people, is that people are feeling like it's not genuine. People are feeling manipulated, as in, hey, we represented this, yay, everybody cheer, and whatever. But are you really representing, or are you just using these different groups to prop up something else? You know what I'm saying? Because it doesn't feel like, you know, like my friends always said, and my brothers would say, like, you know, we're talking about this and we're like, this franchise is inspired by samurai and like the Japanese. Like, we know this. George Lucas has admitted it. We've seen Seven Samurai. We've seen all of these sorts of things. How has there never been an official big time main Japanese Jedi? You got Donnie Yen and you put him in the movie. He's not Japanese, he's Chinese, but you put a guy of that level of martial arts in your movie and he wasn't a Jedi. I mean, of course, there couldn't, in the time span that Rogue One was happening, there technically weren't any Jedi, because that is when the Jedi were all gone, and like, fine. But the point I'm saying is that you had access to a guy like this and you put him in a movie where there aren't any Jedis for him to be. Donnie Yen is like your main Jedi. Period. Like, that just goes without saying. But the point I'm making is that, how in the name of all that is good have there been like 8 movies, episode 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, there's been episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's 6. 7, 8. So that's 8. Rogue One 9, Solo 10. 10 feature films. Not one Asian main Jedi. What? But everybody's fighting like them. Everybody's doing martial arts moves. What? Like, listen, I'm just saying this because, like, I'm just a guy. Like, you know, I watch martial arts movies. I watch action movies. I don't understand that, because if people are throwing this SJW thing and you're talking about representation and everything, this is a community where they originated this craft. They're the ones who, if you want to call it cultural appropriation or whatever, they're the ones who you took this from and turned it into Star Wars. How on earth have you never had one of these guys as the main Jedi? Rey should, listen, if Rey, this is the thing that pisses me off about this. If Rey is not a descendant of Luke, of Leia, of Han Solo, or any of these main guys, or Obi-Wan's long lost daughter or something, why isn't she just an Asian girl who can do these things properly? Why didn't you just cast a Chinese actress? If she's just nobody and she has no parentage, then it doesn't even matter. The reason why I thought she even looked the way she does, and she's English or whatever, is that you brought a character who looked like this was because I thought she was related to Obi-Wan or like Luke or what. She's, from what we now know, she's not related to any of these people. So I'm like, oh my goodness. if she's not related to them, you could have literally picked anybody. So if that's the case, then I would have just gone to like Japan or China and picked like the most badass, amazing martial artist actress I could find. And your movie would be incredible. It would literally, listen, if you did that, I would accept all the things that Ray does, because those fight scenes, when she starts fighting, you're going to see things you've never seen before. Period. You will see things you've never seen before, because when you go on, I tell everybody who watches kung fu movies, go and watch what they're doing. Just go and watch what these guys are doing for like bread and butter movies that they just throw out every month or whatever over there, and then translate that to your imagination into a Star Wars Jedi character, female. Because let's not get him twisted here, okay? Women doing kung fu looks better than guys. It looks more elegant. It's prettier to look at. It's more fluid. It looks visually better, unless you're one of the best. Like if you're Bruce Lee or Donnie Yen, those guys take it to that level where it actually starts looking almost as good as the girls, you know. But girls' martial arts just looks better. Watch Michelle Yeoh stuff, like when she was doing what's that movie called? I can't remember the name of the movie, but you know what I'm talking about, right? It just looks better. So if you get one of those guys to come and do it, and that's the thing I always tell people, I'm like, nobody has an issue. Anybody who is not a misogynist and like an idiot has an issue with a female lead in Star Wars. Like, what? Who? No issues with that. The problem is that you got to do it properly. You just got to do it properly. I mean, look, like I've heard, and let me just see one of these comments here. Characters are so shallow. Cartoon level Ray is the most uninterested protagonist. Even Neo was much better. Written to be Asian. Was Ray listen? Who said Ray was written to be Asian? Where do you get that from? Is that true? Michael answer. Just look at the early concept. Look, if that's true, that is an absolute tragedy, because if listen, think about this. If Ray was Asian, I would almost accept that she has no parents and she's just good. I would almost just, because it just like, I'll just be like, okay, look, we don't know where this woman came from, but I guess she's just, I'd almost accept it. I think the problem is like the whole Ray characterization, because of the accent, the whole poise, like it's like a drama school person who's supposed to be a renegade scavenger, but you just can't believe that, because like you're too refined. Like, I mean, and also, how the hell do you know how to fight? Like, look, that's a whole other conversation. But the point is, I would accept this lack of story and backstory if it was in the vessel of an Asian martial artist who, when you see them fighting, you're like, damn. That's all I want. Because when you see Ray fighting, you're like, you watch Ray fight people in the movie, and you're like, okay, the filmmakers are just making her win, because she's not that good. Like, just making her win. If you had one of those sort of actresses come in there, you'd be like, no, she's just better than them. So I don't know how she's better than them, because the story isn't telling me why, but she's clearly better than these guys. Yeah, I mean, look, we've deviated again, but you know, these are all things that are connected. But I would say that, and I'm maybe 10 more minutes here. I got 10, 15 more minutes on this show. I would say that this is a very, very major hit. You know, it's a really major hit. Like for a movie of this magnitude to pull this sort of numbers, man. I mean, damn. I mean, like I said, I didn't even think this was going to happen. And I'm not one of those. Or if you thought it was going to change, but it doesn't matter. It's like, I mean, the company that owns this owns Marvel and Infinity War. So that the amount of money Infinity War has made you capable of losing 300 million on Solo and being like, you know, that's painful, but you just made a billion or whatever on that. You made a 1.3 billion on Black Panther. Kathleen Kennedy. Look, man, the whole Kathleen Kennedy thing, I don't even want to get into that. I mean, like, I think that's the fans have debated all of that stuff enough. Or not enough, but they're debating it, and there's not a lot more extra stuff you can say. I really feel like, I mean, it's sad, man. Look, Star Wars, it's, for me personally, I mean, I don't watch anymore, only if she's experienced in normal fighting, not if she just learns about the Force. And yeah, horrid films. This is the point I'm trying to make. I'm saying, if you got an Asian actress from Hong Kong cinema, like who is martial artist, who has done these films, like eats these films for breakfast, where do you see her fight in Force Awakens? Even though they don't tell you how she can do it, the quality of the fighting will be such that I'll just be like, okay, listen, it's still bad storytelling, but I'll be like, fine. I'm like, okay. Like, that's the thing I'm trying to say. It's like, when you can't have it, you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want to give me somebody like that, who clearly has no idea what she's doing when it comes to fighting and all this sort of stuff, and then tell me that she's going to beat the hell out of everybody, be better than everybody, I'm like, that is too much for me to swallow. But if I at least get 50% of the pie, whereby I can use my fantasy of like, look, this lady, what I'm seeing physically her doing is ridiculous. Now, I would love to know how she can do it story-wise, narratively. But even if you didn't tell me, I'm still entertained by the quality of the fighting I'm seeing. That's it. That's what I'm trying to say. I mean, look, I guys saying that the screenplays. Look, have you seen the screenplay for American Ninja 2? Go and watch American Ninja 2 is one of the most entertaining films you're going to watch in anywhere. And that film, as far as I'm concerned, has no script. So there are ways to make movies entertaining, even if the script sucks, especially if you're talking about fantasy and everything. I get what you're saying. And you could almost have the same argument about Return of the Jedi. You could have the same argument about, you can definitely have the same argument about Phantom Menace. Do you know how many times I've gone back and watched, Phantom Menace, Darth Maul scenes, all the scenes in the deserts when he fights Qui-Gon and he tells Anakin to duck and they're fighting this thing. That's when he lasts 20 seconds? The whole fight at the end with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. Do you know that stuff is saved on my YouTube? I go there and I just watch it along with my other hundreds of, clips that I save. I just go and watch it. Phantom Menace is like, it's got things in there. So that's what George Lucas understands that aspect of things. So that in Attack of the Clones, you have Jango Fett v. Obi-Wan at the clone factory. That's an amazing scene. I've saved it on my YouTube. That's what I'm saying. The movie as a whole is like, I don't like, what is this movie? Even the fight in Attack of the Clones in the Colosseum, there are still aspects of it where I'm like, I kind of like what I'm seeing here. I kind of like the way that Mace Windu throws his cloak and then he jumps down into the middle of the thing, then he does the thing, then Jango Fett jumps into the thing, and then he's shooting and shooting and they cut off his blaster. Come on, man. That stuff is off the hook. Stuff is off the hook. So I'll accept. Listen, and in Attack of the Clones, you had the fight with Count Dooku against bloody Obi-Wan and Anakin, and then Yoda came. The Yoda part I thought was quite silly, the way he was jumping around. But the point I'm making is that you have things to go back to. There is not a single scene in Force Awakens that I want to watch again. Not one scene of the level of any of the scenes I just told you. Not even close. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's like, if you give, let me see, I can say watch Revenge of the Sith and be entertained. Revenge of the Sith is the one out of the prequels that is acceptable. It's not great, but Revenge of the Sith, I remember when I watched, I'm like, this is all right. Revenge of the Sith to me is like the same level as Return of the Jedi. It's more or less, give or take, it's like Return of the Jedi. Like it's okay. Like, you know, and I think it's because of the kinds of things that had to happen in it. Like, you knew everything was going to have to go down. All the revelations were going to have to be made, all this thing. So if you watch Revenge of the Sith, it's like, it's okay. You know, I mean, it's all right. You know, I mean, I think out of all of them, probably the worst one was Attack of the Clones, because it was the least. Phantom Menace beats Attack of the Clones because of Darth Maul, man. Like, that in and of itself, it just beats. Like, that's the reason why of all of the three, I would go back to Phantom Menace because of that. I really feel like, you know, this is an interesting situation, very surprising. I didn't actually foresee. I didn't actually foresee it. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. Theatricality and deception are powerful agents to the uninitiated. But we are the initiated, aren't we, Bruce? Members of the League of Shadows? It's crazy. Crazy. I don't know what's going to happen next. The Obi-Wan versus Anakin fight, I didn't like. Because I felt like it was like the drama wasn't really there as much as I thought it could have been, for the mere fact that the characters I didn't like. Listen, Obi-Wan is an all-time. What Ewan McGregor did deserved an award. I know it sounds crazy. I think he should have gotten a nomination for it. You can say what you like. Like, his performance as Obi-Wan was excellent. Like, just absolutely excellent. Like, it actually doesn't even make sense. I'm like, how did this guy do this? Because you're playing a character that is so revered. When you see what Ewan McGregor did, you then understand what would have been required of a Han Solo origin thing. And the beauty of Ewan McGregor now is that he's now the right age to play the in-between years, connecting the end of the prequels to A New Hope. He's now the right age, because he was young when, you know, Revenge of the Sith, you know, he was still young. Now he's sort of the right age, so he can actually play. I mean, I'll be honest with you. If the movies are done well, the scripts are good, that is a way to save this whole thing. Not even, you won't save the whole thing, but it's a way to milk a little bit more out of the well, is if a good team take on the Obi-Wan movies, and Obi-Wan is dragging out the fight because he doesn't want to kill Anakin. He could have ended it early. I don't think they can, Grim Fandango, no, I don't think they can save it outright. I think that they can squeeze. Basically, what I'm saying is that I feel like they could have another hit. It's not going to save everything, but they can have another hit. The reason why I don't feel it's going to save everything is that you've killed everyone that anyone cares about. And the people that have replaced them are not good. That's the issue. So you've killed everyone that nobody cares about these new characters. Nobody. And the new fan base, they care about Marvel. That's their thing. Thanos. That's what these people care about. Black Panther, Thanos, Thor, Hulk, Iron Man. That's who they care about. And fair enough. Because, I mean, what makes you think that you're going to come back with something and like it's a disrespect to George Lucas to think that you can just come up with characters that are anywhere near as good as it's a skill. That level of creativity is a skill. If Only Seven says, imagine Christopher Nolan as the Lucasfilm president. Nah, I mean, I see what you're trying to say, but no. You have to understand that Star Wars is a particular kind of thing. The kinds of people that, the person who should be making these films is Steven Spielberg. Like, obviously, if you watched Ready Player One, you just see like the fact that he's not doing it has a lot to do with the fact that George Lucas isn't involved in the franchise anymore. And when George Lucas was involved, George Lucas never let him do a movie. So there's something going on there between them as to why it's not happening. What's that guy's name, man? What's the guy's name? The guy who did Jon Favreau. At a stretch. Like, I mean, you have to have a particular kind of sensibility to yourself that could be able to just sort of make these sorts of films. Because people keep talking about Chris Nolan, but Chris Nolan will just be like a really dark, like plot-driven film. with big twists or some direction that you'd want to go in. Yes, I mean, look, an unrelated saga, somebody said like they would do an unrelated saga. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you wanted to bring a guy like Chris Nolan in, you would then give him like a spin-off thing. But that to me is not even Star Wars anymore. And I think that's what, I'm going to leave it with this because we've got last 4 minutes. Star Wars is a magic project. It's about sprinkles of magic. It's not just the filmmaking. It's something that George Lucas had that he was able to infuse those films with. You don't just try and replicate that, which is the reason why Mark Hamill was right. People who said this were right. Star Wars isn't Star Wars without George Lucas. No one can do this without him. You can't. So you can try and like, if you do not get, listen, we're talking about saving this franchise. Do you know how you save this? You bring him back. Period. They will never do it because they've paid him $4 billion. If you want to save Star Wars, you bring that guy back and still do the same things you're doing. Just say, listen, you're going to be an advisor, you're in charge, you're going to do the stories and everything, but we'll hire this director, but you get to pick the directors, you get to pick that is the only way now as it stands that you're going to, and the thing is, what is he going to do? Because you've killed everyone. Everyone's dead. That is such an extreme move. Why did you kill them? Did they? Because there's nothing you can do now. They're dead. Oh, God. My God. Like that I don't understand. I don't get it. I really just don't get it. Like that was just such an extreme, bold move. Anyway, guys, that's all I got. Don't know when I'm going to be back, but soon, hopefully, you know, when the next story kicks in. I mean, I should probably do a Infinity War video because I haven't done that. Chess gaming, killing Lucas Stoke was like taking the king pieces out of a chess game. 100% agree. Like that to me was like, you've killed everything. Like, so now the main villain is going to be Kylo Ren, who is yet to win a fight. Kylo Ren he hasn't won anything. Oh God, I just knocked myself. Like the guy is going into the last film without winning a single deal on his own, at least. Anyway, that's all I got, and I will probably be back to do a Spielberg in.